Hi and welcome to Famous Fitness, where we specialise in helping people get the perfect balance of a healthy lifestyle and enjoying life. Welcome to the Mindset Podcast. The reason why I've set up this Mindset Podcast is because I speak to plenty of people who are going through difficult times in their life, be it their personal life or their business life. And as much as we try to keep it separate, sometimes your personal life will affect your business life and your business life will have an effect on your personal life. Now, there will be some people out there who are going in for the adventure of setting up a business for the first time and they're experiencing failure for the first time. And they're thinking to themselves, what the hell is going on? I didn't expect this to be happening. But there will be people out there who've been working on their business for quite some time and they keep getting beaten down and they keep failing all the time. And they're going to be thinking to themselves, why am I doing this all the time? So what I'm aiming to get from this podcast is to show you, no matter where you are in your journey, be it at the very, very start of it, or if you're 5 years into it and you're still failing, there's still a way for you to get out of it. There's tools, there's techniques, there's changes in the mindset that you can make that regardless of where you are and what it is that you're dealing with, you will be able to get through it. And that's the aim for the podcast we're going to go through. So to help with the podcast, what we're going to be doing for the first few sections is talking about the stages and the steps and the processes and most importantly the failures that I went through to set up Famous Fitness, not just in my business life but also in my personal life. And hopefully along the way with you guys watching the podcast, it will help you no matter where you are in your journey, be it at the start of something or with you being a few years into doing something. Now, the name of the first podcast is called Opportunity Because I Failed. Now, when we go deeper into the podcast, it will make sense why that title has been given for this podcast. So as I touched on earlier, I said to you that I'll be going through all the stages I went through to set up Famous Fitness, all the failures, all the processes, all the things I had to learn. So we're going to go back to the very, very first stage of how Famous Fitness came about. I would take you years back before Famous Fitness was even a thought in my mind, before it even started. So you're going to have to go back probably now looking 12, 13 years. I was down at Southampton Solent University and I was studying football. Back then and still now, I have just an absolute passion for football. I love going to watch football games, regardless of what level of football it is. I just enjoy going and watching a game of football. Now, my aim of going to university was to study there for 3 years, get my FA coaching badges, and then through the networks and the connections I can get from university, get some work in coaching football. Now, I've always enjoyed coaching, but I love football, so I thought, let me love coaching, let me love football, and let me put them in together. Now, I did the first year university, passed that, got through that, and we started doing the second year at university, where we got a little bit deeper into about sort of studying football, and my sort of thought process was that, I'm here to coach, I'm here to be coaching people. And it was about halfway during my second year of university, I remember it as clear as day, I was sitting in my bedroom and I was doing an assignment about the effects of generally sport in society, not football, but sport in society. I had anything to 10 to 15 books, all just scattered around my room with like notes I was taking from. And I sat back in my chair and I just thought to myself, this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to be doing this kind of work where I'm thinking about society being affected by sports. And I understand it was a module for what needed to be done with that course, but I want to be a football coach. I'm someone who likes to be active. I'm not someone who likes to sit down, read a book, take notes. I like to be active. I'm someone who learns by being active and being out, touchy-feely. That's how I learn. So to be sitting there writing like a 5,000 word essay with 15 pages being all references about effects of sport in society, that isn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coach. But the amount of coaching I was doing at that point in university was tiny. There was hardly any coaching there at all. So I'm involved in a 3-year course and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not getting what I want out of this. So why am I doing this? So I decided to quit university because I didn't want to spend 3 years working on a course not to get out of it what I wanted to get out of it, which is to be a football coach. There was hardly any coaching at all. And I didn't want to have to write thousands upon thousands of words for my assignments, God knows how many words for the dissertation, how many pages of references, I wouldn't even like to think about it, all the time doing it to get something out of it that I'm not even going to use. I wasn't even going to use the stuff that they were teaching us on the course. I went there to be a football coach, but only for a fraction, a very, very small fraction of the time was we coaching football. So I thought to myself that this isn't just for me. However, there was one part within the course that was the opportunity that I didn't realise at the time, but it came a little bit later on. We had to choose a module of what we wanted to do in the second year. And I chose working in a gym. It wasn't a commercial gym like your DC's Leisure or your Fitness First. It was just a gym that was at the university. But what our lecturer was teaching us was how to write the training program, how to put a session together based on the injuries or experiences your client may have had, taking them through the session, like the exercises, the warm-up, and then motivating them and then pushing them along to get the session completed. Now, I've always enjoyed coaching, and that's why I started the football degree in the first place, to become a football coach. But even before that, I used to coach at a youth side called Fleet Spurs. So even before I started university, I was coaching at the time, because coaching is something that I've always enjoyed. I've always loved it. And I'm very fortunate that the passion I have is something that I'm working towards being my full-time occupation, which is coaching. But I realised how much I enjoyed it when I was there coaching one-on-one. I had like my client on the treadmill. They were like tiring towards the end of the the minute I think we were sprinting on the treadmill for. I was there pushing them on, geeing them on, saying, "Look, you've got 30 seconds to go. Let's break it down. You've got 15 seconds to go. We're almost there now. Last 5 seconds, big push. Let's go, let's go, let's go." And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And my client, well, not so much a client, but there were other guys or other students in the class, but we had to sort of look after them as if they were our client. And they really enjoyed it as well. They enjoyed having someone being there, motivating them, pushing them along to hit that target on the treadmill. Now, they felt tired and they were shattered doing it, but they said it was great having someone there to really push and really drive them along. And I really enjoyed it as well. I loved being there next to them, pushing them along and then driving them forward to help them hit that target when they're on that treadmill. So then it wasn't until I finished university, or I decided to quit university, I realised that I still enjoy coaching, but I really enjoyed working in the gym. I enjoyed writing down the training programs, the session plans. I really enjoyed catering the session plans based on people's experiences, any injuries they may have, so you can really personalise it. And I loved it. So I thought to myself, well, I don't have to stop coaching because I quit university and I'm not a football coach anymore. I can coach people in the gym, and then that's where it started from. So when I finished university, I did some studying and I found out, well, is there anything I can work in this arena? Is there anything I can do within training at the gym? From that, what I found was a 6-week course from a company called the European Institute of Fitness. They do a 6-week intense course. They do one based over in London and they did one based over in Spain. So I thought to myself, well, once I moved out of Southampton and I'm back home, that's what I'm going to be doing. So finished Southampton, I moved back home. I then decided I went over to Spain to do a 6-week course, and then from that moment I became a qualified personal trainer, and that was the very, very start of Famous Fitness. However, if you go back to the very start of this podcast, what the title of it was, Opportunity Because I Failed. So I went to university to become a football coach, and at the end of it I didn't. So with that journey I was going through to start university, do a 3-year degree, and then come out of it qualified to start working for professional football clubs to coach football, I failed in that. That journey, that process, I failed. So you can quite easily, and I'll put my hands up, if people look at that journey I went through, if they turn around and said, you failed at that, I'd have no argument to say that I didn't, because I did fail. I went there to become a football coach, I went there to become qualified, get all my FA badges, and then work for football clubs. I didn't do that. So people are right if they say that I failed. However, I found the opportunity amongst that failure, which was training people in the gym, something that I loved because it was still coaching, it was still teaching people exercises, it was still coaching people how to do those exercises properly, and it was also coaching people to really push to their limits and get the most they can out of their training session, all within a safe environment. So in that arena of me failing, I found that opportunity. So then it all goes back to the title of the podcast, Opportunity Because I Failed. So I failed in those 3 years at university, but I found the opportunity that started Famous Fitness. It's because when we was at the 6-week course in Spain, we had to write down a business plan. And it was during the business plan, I came up with the whole idea of Famous Fitness. But the reason why I did that PT course is because a couple of years before that, I wanted to be a football coach. So I put myself out there to become a football coach, failed, but because I put myself out there, I then found this love and passion of training people in the gym. I still had that passion for coaching. Now, the lesson that you want to take from this is that you don't want to aim to fail. You don't want to go out there to mess up, and you don't want to go out there not to win. Of course you want to go out there to win. You always set your targets to be the highest they possibly can all the time, but you're not going to win at everything. You're not always going to hit a home run, and you're not always going to pass the courses that you thought you were going to pass. However, what you've got to take from this is because I put myself out there first. I put myself out there to fail, And from that failure, I found this opportunity, which is working in the gym. Now, if you look at, for example, like people who are in a band, you may have like a group of friends, some kids, who one's a guitar, one's on the bass, one's on the drums, one's a singer. You've got to think to yourself, who is more likely to come across or be discovered by an agent or by somebody who is in the music industry? A group who only plays a gig once every 4 months, or the band who plays a gig 4 times a week. Now, you can listen to the music of both these bands and you can love them just as much. The lyrics are just as good, the music's just as good, the melody's just as smooth. They're both identically just amazing. If you heard both of these bands at the same time, they will both be your favourite band. They're that good. However, one band goes out 4 times a year for a gig and plays live. The other band goes out 4 nights a week to play gigs live. Who's more likely to come across an opportunity? It's the band who's going out 4 times a week. Now, there'll be plenty of times when they're out in those gigs and they'll have no one showing up, or they'll be doing their gigs and people will be walking out because they may be in a crowd that the music they're playing isn't quite for them. But what they're doing is that they're putting themselves out there, so they're more likely to have that opportunity amongst all the failures. So I had that massive failure with university, but because I was willing to put myself out there in the first place to become a football coach, I then came across the opportunity of training people in the gym. Now, you don't come across the opportunity if you're sitting at home watching Netflix, watching your TV programs, playing computer games, because you're not out there. Sometimes you do stumble across your success, or you do stumble across your passion, but you don't stumble across it if you're not out there trying in the first place. So again, I found my opportunity because I failed. It was when I failed, I found this opportunity to coach people. Exactly the same as when these kids are playing the band, or so when they're playing their gigs all the time. They will do so many gigs that just will not work out well. Same as a comedian. There's so many stand-up gigs they would do where they'll fall flat, get heckled, get booed off stage. But it's the person who's willing to put the opportunities in front of themselves time and time and time and time again. Those are the people who are more likely to find success in and amongst that failure. So the lesson you want to get from this podcast is that you need to put yourself out there, because sometimes within failure you will find the opportunity of a passion that you never even thought that you had in the first place, but you don't know that if you don't try. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the first podcast. Again, the main thing you want to take from it is that you have to put yourself out and you have to try, because sometimes when you do fail, you'll find opportunities and you'll come across experiences that you never thought you would enjoy and you never thought that you'd like, but you won't find those opportunities if you do not try. So guys, again, I really do hope you enjoyed the podcast today. It's the first one. These will be coming out once every 2 weeks. If there is anything that you would like me to discuss, please get in contact with Famous Fitness. We're always happy to help you guys out. Thank you very much for your time. We'll speak to you soon. Cheers.